Morning, everyone. In a few minutes, we will be starting. Good morning. Thank you for joining our second webinar for our third quarter webinar series. Thank you for those who will be joining for the first time and those who are joining us for the second time. So our topic will be on UHPLC. As a service engineer, I was happy when the UHPLC was released a few years back. Kasi as a service engineer, UHPLC tends to be routinary. So parang madali na when it comes to servicing them. So when the UHPLC came out, so I was happy kasi may bago akong laruan. So may bago akong pag-aaralan, but of course, may mga difficulties when it comes to servicing kasi as a service engineer, I try to teach my customers to troubleshoot for themselves and I teach them how to remove certain parts of the HPLC that they can do for themselves. Ang problema kay UHPLC, hindi natin siya pwedeng basta galawin kasi you have special tools to do it. So with that, Sir Lemuel, our business manager, will be discussing the advantages of our UHPLC systems. This will be in general, so if you have questions, please do chat them in our chat box. Sir Lem will be starting in a few minutes. He is our application specialist for basically all our products, but he specializes mainly for our chromatography systems. So I would like to introduce you, Sir Lemuel Ferrer. Most probably those who are already using Agilent HPLC and GC, most probably kilala niyo si Sir Lem and those Perkin-Elmer's instrument before kasi dumaan siya sa pagiging application specialist. So he's with us. I've known him for more than 15 years and he's been in the industry for 50 years, sir? I did joke. More than 20 years.
Obra ka naman.
So, Sir Lem, take it away. Morning, everyone.
Mark, let me share my presentation.
Yes, sir, sure. Last one thing pala, meron tayong giveaway para for COVID prevention. So, yun yung ating raffle.
Baka pwede, Mark, ibahin mo ngayon kung sino yung magpe-question sa kanya may bigay.
Pwede. Parang ginawa ng Phenomenex. Those who will be sending questions or will be asking questions, those 6 persons will be having a gift. Okay. So, let's start. Sir,
okay, so magandang umaga po. Good morning po sa lahat. So, I have 45 minutes to finish this. Pa-check na lang po if my audio is okay. So, the topic for today is about some very basic techniques on how you would overcome some challenges sa operation ng UHPLC or UPLC. So, pareho lang po yan. UHPLC Ultra High Performance, yung UPLC Ultra Performance, whatever. UPLC is basically for waters. So, generic ito ng water. So, I will give some idea on, how to handle the challenges of UHPLC. Although sinabi ni Mark na it's a new toy, but it doesn't come without any challenges. But anyway, bago ako mag-start, well, allow me to, kasi alam nyo naman nasa pandemya tayo ngayon, allow me to dedicate just a little time para lang po maipag-pray natin yung mga tao na may nasa hospital na may sakit at saka yung mga nahaharap ngayon dito sa pandemya na to. Okay? Heavenly Father, thank you for this time. We pray, Lord, for your healing and health, Heavenly Father, to be upon us all. We dedicate this time to you, Heavenly Father, and we pray that this pandemic will end already because you are in control and you are Lord of all. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay, so, bakit yung HPLC? Ang mga tao kasi, there is always a need for speed. Simula nung ma-invento yung pinakaunang automobile on the other side. And these other sides, ito, ay, hindi kalimutan ko yung pangalan nito, probably si Mark mas alam to. This was according to 2021. This is the fastest car available now. Pwede ata tumakbo ito ng more than 4,400 miles an hour. I don't know. That's kasing bilis na ata ito ng eroplano. But anyway, tulad ng nabanggit ni Mark, may pinanggalingan kung bakit nagkaroon ng UHPLC. So, just to give you an idea, yung sinasabi ni Mark, 20 years na ako sa industry, I'm not sure kung totoo siya. But maybe let me start. I started actually with this particular instrument. Kung nakikita nyo to, medyo maliit lang siya, but it's one of the earliest HPLC available way back in the early 90s. Early 90s. So ito isang napakalaking HPLC. This is made by PerkinElmer. Gumagamit ito ng strip chart recorder. So you could imagine isang pump, sakop ang isang lamesa. And then kasabay niyan itong model 510 ng Waters. Kung meron kayo, kung nakikita nyo pa to, napakaswerte nyo. This particular pump could last more than 20 years. Alam ko may mga available pang ganito. And then pumasok itong model 250. This is from PerkinElmer. Kita nyo, lalaki pa rin. At saka wala pa mga computer noon. What you could see here, actually our strip chart recorder. Let me show you my pointer. Ito, mga strip chart recorder. So pag lumabas yung mga peak, bahala kayo mag-calculate. And then, may lumabas sa series 200. This is still from PerkinElmer. Ito, software-based control na. And then itong isa na to, ito yung sa tingin ko noon, I think this one, na 992, na pinakaunang lumabas na fully integrated system. Na sa tingin ko ito yung pinakaunang tinitinan challenge. Yung tawag dito Integral 4000. This is the first one na integrated yung HPL system. Kasi gusto nila na ma-minimize yung tinatawag na dispersion para ma-sharper yung peak. Okay, ito galing ito sa PerkinElmer. Unfortunately, hindi siya tumagal. Maybe because of the cost. And then I was able to handle a system from Jasco. Ito yung mga TU580. And then afterwards, naging product specialist yun ako, application specialist ng Waters. So kung yung nakikita nyo ito yung mga lumang Alliance 2690 at saka yung mga Breeze system. I started with them yung kung matatandaan nyo yung mga software na Millennium 32 at ngayon ata ang tawag na yung mga Empower. And then afterwards, naging consultant ako ng DKSH, so I started to do consultancy with Agilent. Doon ako pumasok sa Agilent. What you could see here is the Agilent 1100 series, and then nag-mature siya in the 1260 series. Dito na lumabas yung mga UHPLC, and then yung Agilent na 1290, and now what we are trying to support now in a system called Scion. So this is parang hybrid. No, I'm not saying hybrid. Parang nasa gitna ito ng UHPL at saka HPLC. Because in this particular discussion, gusto ko ring maintindihan ninyo na although it's a toy, it's a new toy, pero hindi siya lahat yung tinatawag natin na magandang solution. Because during the process, marami ako naging problema with a UHPLC, which I would like to address in this particular presentation. Okay? So, for a start, gusto ko lang i-explain ang pinaka-purpose ng chromatography. Ang pinaka-purpose ng chromatography essentially is to separate components. So, pagka meron kang mixture, gusto mong ma-separate siya into component. Bakit? Para ma-analyze, ma-identify, ma-purify, at ma-quantify. And then, apart from having to separate them, what is really important for you is to create a sharp peak. Bakit? Kasi if you are in the pharmaceutical industry, you would understand fairly well that a sharper peak is easily quantifiable, at the same time easily reproducible. Dahil sa pharmaceutical, before we could proceed with the analysis, kailangan tayo mag-comply sa tinatawag na system suitability test. At mahirap mag-system suitability test if the peaks are broad, like this one, rather than itong mga peaks na ganito. So, purpose of chromatography, just bear in mind, kaya nagkaroon ng mga UHPLC because of this thing, na magkaroon ng sharp peak, makabuo ng sharper pitch. Okay? Now, also, as I mentioned, issues with HPLC through the years. Bakit nagkaroon ng UHPLC? I'm only talking from the time that I first used HPLC in the 90s hanggang ngayon. Okay? One of them actually is solvent consumption. Alam natin during the past that isang analysis noon at 2 ml per minute flow umaabot ng pinakamabilis nun mga nasa 30 minutes. So 2 ml times 31 run is 60 ml ang ginagamit na solvent, which is too expensive. During that time, may mga hinanap noon na pwedeng gawing kapalit sa solvent consumption. And one of them is actually to use a shorter column para mas maikli yung runtime. But the problem with the shorter column before, with the smaller particle size, ay yung the same problem pa rin na na-encounter ngayon. Madali siyang mag-clog, madali siyang masira. At alam naman natin, di ba, na a column, kahit pa from the same brand, same model, pag bumili ka ng panibago, nagkakaroon ng counting differences sa selectivity because they are manufactured on using a different batch lot or lot number ng silica. Kaya tayong mga I'm just talking from, from yung mga chromatographer in the 90s, mas gusto nila yung kanilang column kung pwedeng mag-last na for a lifetime para hindi nag-iiba ang selectivity. Okay? So that is one thing. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with, nagkaroon din noon ng tinatawag na capillary electrophoresis because capillary electrophoresis is also a separation technique. Pero during that time, ang isang capillary electrophoresis, because it's a capillary system, sa isang araw, gagastos ka na ng mga 5 ml na solvent. Okay? Again, same thing, long run time. Okay? Itong long run time issue na to is dahil masyadong mahaba ang runtime, ilan lang yung na-analyze mo for the day. Now, bilang HPLC vendor in the 90s, even until yung mga late 90s na, yung mga early 20s, wala naman ako problema sa long runtime. Bakit ako walang problema sa long runtime? Hindi naman ako nag-a-analyze. For us as a vendor, this is a good news. Bakit? Pag kinulang ka na sa HPLC, bibili ka uli. Of course, pero siyempre, pero siyempre, during those mga 1995 or so, nakikita ko na bumibili sila ng mga HPLC because of the long run time. Pero nagiging problema na nila ngayon ay bench space. Kaya talagang nagkaroon yung challenges na mag-create ng mga UHPLC. Again, I also mentioned broad peaks. So problema kasi longer ang runtime, malahaba yung column, broad ang peaks. And I know yung matagal na sa inyo nag-HPLC, you would always encounter yung mga pinakahuling lumalabas na peaks, normally sila yung mga broad. And normally these peaks na lumalabas sa bandang huli, ito yung mga tinatawag natin na mga basic compounds. Normally, matatagpuan ito sa inyong mga gamot na mga antihistamines and so. Okay? And then, expensive instrumentation. True. Would you believe during those time in the 90s, ang isang HPLC system na isocratic, tapos ay UBBs, hindi pa nga uso mga column oven noon at saka isang data system, umaabot siya ng $30,000 yung pinakasimple. Pero ngayon, meron ka na niyang autosampler, kompleto ka na, everything and so on, may software ka pa, aabot na siya ng mga 25,000 or less. It's because dahil nga nagpo-progress na, medyo nagmumura na siguro yung mga makina. And then, expensive ang consumables at mga supplies. Yes, during those times, yung mga filters, even yung mga vials, they are so expensive. Kaya yung mga analysts noon, they would rather filter them through a filter paper. Which, pag ginawa mo ngayon na mag-filter ng sample through filter paper, definitely you cannot run them on UHPLC. Kasi siguradong isang injection mo pa lang yan, talag na agad yung column mo. Okay? And then there are software complexity and user friendliness. Until today, this particular part ay patuloy pa rin nag-i-evolve. Kasi yung complexity ng software na andyan pa rin because ideally during those times, dapat daw para masabi mo that you having a very good software, dapat daw ang alam mo lang, basta marunong ka lang gumamit ng Windows, you could already use the HPLC, which is actually not kasi kinakailangan ng basic knowledge on HPLC systems or HPLC terminologies. But there's papunta doon. Okay, lalo na ngayon na meron namang mga HPLC na ngayon na yung may mga Android app na pwedeng gamitin. And then as I mentioned, bench space, these are the problems. Kaya nagkakaroon ng mga UHPLC. And appropriate column. I would like to mention until today, pwedeng ang UHPLC, the HPLC for that matter is already probably come to a point na medyo mature na siya. But UHPLC is continually evolving. But ang masasabi ko lang, until today, the column is still evolving. Ito pa rin yung pinaka-challenge pagdating sa UHPLC analysis. Okay? So, na-mention ko na rin, as already mentioned kanina, ito talaga yung pinaka-issue, instrument progression. Okay? Tulad ng sinabi ni Mark, because new people wanted to see a new toy. Okay, so improvement, shorter analysis time, shorter period. You could see plate count like this, napakalalaki mga plate count. And of course, kasama sa UHPLC yung paggamit ng sub 2 ppm micron. And you would understand, habang binababaan mo yung particle size ng isang column, ang nagiging problema mo is back pressure. Okay, so just to give you a little bit of the principle involved, bakit naisip ng mga chromatographer, paliitin natin, baka kasipid tayo ng solvent, masusolve naman natin yung ganyang problema. If you could see in this particular equation, nilagay ko lang ito pero hindi ko memoryado yung mga computation. But anyway, just show here, in this particular computation, resolution actually improve habang bumababa yung iyong particle size. Okay, kaya kung makikita nyo dito sa plot natin, tinatawag na optimum efficiency, this has something to do with the column optimization habang bumababa yung particle size mo. Ito actually yung plate, itong part na to, yung tinatawag na HHTF. Pagka mataas, ibig sabihin pangit ang performance. Pag mababa, maganda ang performance. So habang bumababa yung particle size, gumaganda yung performance. And you don't have to, para dadaanan ko lang ito mga ABC, it has something to do with the column. Ito yung mga terms lang na ginagamit kung ano nangyayari sa loob ng column, eddy diffusion, longitudinal diffusion, at saka mass transfer. So one of them is a multi-path effect. So ibig sabihin nito, if you look at here, yung eddy diffusion is actually the A term, and the A term actually is this part. So normally, constant naman yung A term. So ang ibig sabihin na multi-path effect, wala namang nagiging issue sa performance ng kanya habang humahaba yung multipath. But again, of course, nakikita nyo rito, yung peak na apat sharp na lalabas, nagbubrod habang humahaba yung column because of this multipath effect. So you would be able to understand now na para maiwasan ka to, liitan ko yung particle size para mas maganda yung labas. Another plano is, kung makikita nyo rito sa B term, no? Na pumapangit yung kanyang performance habang tumataas yung velocity. It's because yung longitudinal diffusion. So kasi nagdi-diffuse siya into this part kapag humahaba yung column. So naintindihan nyo na ngayon, di ba? Maganda, mas maikling column, mas particle size. So that's where it's going. And also, sinusupport din nung tinatawag na A at saka B term, yung mass transfer. So tama, mas maikling runtime, much better. Kaya kung makikita ninyo, as mabanggit ko kanina, you would observe, yung mga peak na huling-huling lumalabas, sila yung mga broad peak. Yung mga peak na unang lumalabas, sila yung mga sharper peak. And this is what really we want. Now, I'm not going to discuss yung mga method development ng selectivity and so on, pero pinibigay ko lang siya na basis para lang maintindihan natin na of all of this, although UHPLC now is with us almost 10 years or 15 years already, the evolution of the column is still there. Now, dito pinapakita ko lang that the separation of time bound 30 minutes as compared to 4 minutes. This is so nice. The first time na gumamit ako ng mga UHPLC in early 2000, maganda siya. Kaya lang, doon ko na-experience na limang injection pala ako, pang injection pala ako, taas na ng back pressure. And the problem with the early UHPLC, safety issue of having a higher back pressure ng mga pumps. Pinakita ko sa inyo yung mga evolution ng pumps. Yung mga dating pumps na mga naunang pumps, particularly the plunger nun ay glass. You would imagine yung glass na plunger. Bakit glass? Siyempre, para hindi inert, no? Para inert rather. Pag tinaasan mo pa lang ang back pressure, umabot pa lang yan ng 3,000 PSI, mababasag na yan. So that is always a problem of pagdating doon sa back pressure. So gusto ko lang sabihin na, although of course we would like to have a UHPLC na mataas yung back pressure capability, pero tingnan natin, ito bang back pressure capability ba na to, kaya ba ng pump? Okay? And then there are two considerations always, instrument at saka column. I would like to discuss a little bit of the instrument as we go along. But kaya ko siya pinag-separate kasi talagang they are totally separate entity. As I've mentioned, maaaring dumating na sa point that the instrument already has come into its maturity. Nakita niya na ngayon kung how to design a system for UHPLC. But the column is still evolving until this time. Okay? So, ano ba yung mga instrumental features ng UHPLC? One of them is system pressure. Kita niyo yung difference dito. Pag gumamit ka ng isang non-UHPLC column from 2,500 theoretical plate to 14,000, ang taas ng theoretical plate, nakita nyo it's becoming sharp. And nakokopla niya yung objective natin to create a sharper peak, which is so nice. But again, the problem here is the pressure increased 36 times from this part into this part. Ito, hindi pa natin tinitingnan pagka yung mga sample ay nagka-clog, lalo na. And again, I don't want to go into the details of what is the type of pumps that being installed in the system na meron kayo. Pero I would like you to understand na although your pump is capable to handle higher pressure, it's always not good to operate on a higher pressure. Number one, it's because na-stress ang system, the pump itself, at the same time, na-stress ang column. Okay, so lagay pa rin natin sa isip natin, pwede ba akong maka-achieve ng ganitong performance without having to go into 36 times increase in the pressure? Okay, so safety issue still number one. Titingnan natin ito. Although, lahat naman ng mga HPLC binibili nyo, dumaan yan sa ano. Okay, mag-alala. Dumaan yan sa testing na walang magkakaroon mga pagsabog. Okay? Dalawang very important terminologies na gusto kong maintindihan nyo para UHPLC. Dual volume at saka system dispersion. Let me start with the dual volume. Yung dual volume, yan yung volume ng pump ng HPLC system rather na nagsisimula paglabas galing dito sa pump, going to the mixer, going to the autosampler hanggang doon sa head ng column, okay, yung dual volume. So ano yung implikasyon ng dual volume? The higher the dual volume, ang iyong gradient madi-delay. So pag na-delay ang gradient mo, delay ang analysis mo. So it defeats the purpose of having a UHPLC. Okay, now remember sa HPLC, ang tataas ng mga dual volume. Ano yung mga dual volume? Sa mga HPLC, normally umaabot ng 1 ml, 2 ml. So imagine yung mga delay in the analysis will also suffice na magkakaroon ka ng mga delay ng 2 to 3 ml. Nowadays, yung mga UHPLC, yung kanilang mga dual volume siguro umaabot na lang ng 5 or 40 microliter. At this point in time, gusto ko rin sabihin na ang mga UHPLC na effective are UHPLC which are using a binary pump na ganito na high pressure system. Kasi sa high pressure system, ang mixer mo ay maikli, maliit. So kung ang mixer mo ay maliit and the mixing goes through the line, ang dual volume mababa. Now, if you have a UHPLC na mataas ang dual volume, it's because you're using a quaternary UHPLC. Kaya siya ng pump mo, back pressure, pero hindi niya kaya yung dual volume capability. Now, critical ba ang dual volume? Yes, siguro kapag critical sa iyo na dapat mas maikli ang runtime. Nakaka-apekto ba siya sa runtime? Yes. Nakaka-apekto ba siya sa reproducibility ng result? Yes, if you're doing gradient analysis. Okay? Pero pag isocratic lang naman, it's okay. Pero ang mas nakaka-apekto actually is yung tinatawag na dispersion. So yung dispersion, kitang-kita yan sa peak. Kita nyo itong sharp peak as compared to this broad peak. Yung dispersion naman na yan, that's the solvent, yung volume coming from, lumalabas sa column, papunta dito ngayon sa system. So yan yung tinatawag na low dispersion. So essentially, may logic, para magkaroon ka ng low dispersion, the shorter the length of the tubing coming out from the column, going to the system, the better it is for you. Para ang peak mo, ganito ang makukuha mong peak, hindi itong peak na mayroong nagtitail. This particular tailing of peak normally happens, pag halos nagtitail, it normally happens kapag mataas ang system dispersion mo. Okay? Now, ganun din, how to maintain the low dispersion, very important, yung tinatawag na flow cell. Yung mga traditional flow cell actually is may tinatawag yan na volume ng flow cell. Remember, in a UVB spectrophotometer, kailangan mong i-maintain yung specific path length. Okay? Ano yung path length? 10 mm path length. Kasi pagka binabaan mo ang path length, para lang bumaba ang volume, ang magsasuffer sa sensitivity. Sa ngayon naman, wala nang issue dyan dahil nakagawa na naman ang karamihan ng HPLC ng lower volume na cell para lang yung lower volume ng cell pero pareho pa rin yung path length. Okay? Now, what is important in this? Kasi kapag ginamit mong sinasabi ko lang, hindi mo pwede pagpalitin yung UVBs from HPLC sa UVBs ng UHPLC. Kasi na-separate mo ng maayos sa UHPLC column, pagdating dito sa flow cell ng UVBs, magkakaroon ka naman ng remixing. Pag nagkaroon ka ng remixing dito, sharp pa rin ang lalabas mong peak. It does not comply again with the objective of getting a sharper peak. Okay, so sa ngayon naman, wala naman ng problema kasi karamihan ngayon ng ginagamit are actually low volume UV flow. But make sure UHPLC detector ang kasama. Okay? Kasi ganun din very important, apart from all of this, is to use a suitable tubing and fittings. Okay? May mga advisable na maliliit na tubo. Now, gusto ko lang itong i-mention at this particular part of the presentation kasi ito yung frustration ko noon when I was doing HPLC. During the 90s, ang mga chromatographer noon, kakaunti lang yung makikita mo nakasubmit sa kanila dito. May ball pen, pero at the same time, may mga adjustable wrench at saka wrench kasi noon talagang hinihigpitan. Kasi yung ginagamit noon ay mga stainless steel. Ang frustration noon, kapag pangit at mali yung sistema ng technique na paghihigpit mo, ito nagre-resulta. Ganito mga peaks. Kasi nga, yan yung tinatawag na tumataas ang dispersion. Apart from the fact na yung napakadami nung gumagamit ng napakahabang mga tubo papunta sa HPLC, which hindi ko naman sila masisi dahil mahirap magputol noon ng mga stainless steel tubing. Hanggang dumating yung time noon na nagkaroon ng mga PEK na tubing, yung mga plastic, which is so nice. The problem with the plastic tubing naman noon, umaakat ka pa lang ng 3,000, 2,000 PSI na bumibigay na, hindi mo siya maipasok ng maayos. But the good thing about PEK na mga tubo, you don't need to wrench. Kailangan mo lang finger tight and so on. Now, if you have, itong security link, this is actually, commercial siguro kung sabihin yung commercial, but this is one of the best fittings na nakita ko na pinisa sa pinakamaganda sigurong na-invento ngayon sa UHPL system kasi may kompleto na siya ng ito, you do only finger tight, kompleto na rin to this optimized for a column. Tapos para hindi ka nagkakamali, sir, self-aligning, hindi ka nagkakamali ng pagpapasok. Nagkakaroon siya ng clicking sound para masabi mong na-connect na. And ito pwede mo i-connect from column and then going to the detector and probably whatever. And the good thing about it is, it could withstand up to 19,000 PSI. Kahit pa yan ay mga plastic. So, now, I know magkukos ito ng money in your part, pero yung ease of use, at saka yung ease nang hindi kayo paulit-ulit would be helpful to you. So if you would have time, please, try to look into this. Pwede nyo namang tingnan, this is ang tawag dito, security link. Okay? And then, the other instrumental features, actually, this is, babalikan ko. Other instrumental features is already built in. Now, kung makikita ninyo, kailangan lang alam niyo kung paano gamitin. Ha? May mga tinatawag tayong data acquisition rate, okay, or detector hands. Ito mga data acquisition rates, ito yung mga, if you would see here, ito yung normal na HPLC dati. Ang tawag namin dito I forgot the name, noise terminology ang tawag. Kalimutan, babanditin ko, but I forgot. Data hertz na kasi ngayon ang tawag eh. Ito yung tinatawag na data acquisition rate. Sinasabi dito, pag sinabing 4 seconds, ibig sabihin, ang detector mo nagko-collect every 4 seconds. Kung nagko-collect siya every 4 seconds, ang gagawin ng computer mo lang naman ngayon, i-connect yung dot. So if it is only collected every 4 seconds, pag nag-connect siya ng dot, it is broad. As compared, if you are collecting every 0.063 seconds, kita nyo very sharp na siya. At kailangan lang maintindihan nyo that your system or yung mga UVC detector nyo would be able fast enough to handle yung data acquisition response rate. Meron siyang digital electronic to be able to handle it. At for most of the UHPLC, 80 Hz is more than enough. Bakit? Kasi meron din itong trade-off. Anong trade-off niya? Ito, pag marami kang collectioners, ang taas ng noise mo. Okay? Unlike before, mababa yung noise. Halos wala kang noise. Sharper nga, broader nga lang yung mga peaks. Okay? And then, now, ano yung mga benepisyo na nakukuha mo sa HPLC? We already mentioned, mataas yung tinatawag na very good ang resolution. I would like also to mention tinatawag na complex sample. Okay? Na yung complex sample, ibig sabihin marami siyang peak at the same time complex yung matrix. Okay? And then, yung development ng rapid stability indicating HPLC method, madali siya sa UHPLC kasi mabilis yung runtime. And then, pwede kayong mag-customize using HPLC of different length. Okay? Using HPLC of different length. Meron akong nakita noon na, remember, pagdating sa UHPLC, ang mga acceptable, not acceptable, pero yung mga karamihan ginagamit, 50 mm, tapos yung 3 cm, pinakamahaba na ata is 150. Now, may 250 ba? Meron. Kaya lang, I don't think it could be kayang i-handle siya ng inyong back pressure. Okay? And then, greener HPLC plus platform. Bakit siya greener? Kasi ang gamit mo ng solvent at saka usage greatly reduced. Okay? And of course, sensitivity and precision of performance is increased. Now, I would like also to highlight yung tinatawag na mga pagkagamit ng tinatawag na complex sample. And you would know na because you're using small particle column, they are really prone to clogging. Okay? Hindi ito may iwasan. Kapag ka hindi ka sumunod sa tamang protocol, they're really very prone to clogging. I'm not sure if you have the experience, sa isang injection mo pa lang, ang taas na ng back pressure. Okay? And then, very prone to column blocking. Ito, yung isa sa naging frustration ko noon kung bakit from using UHPLC column na medyo excited ako, later on, bumalik ako sa normal na HPLC column. This is also one of the main reasons kung bakit, although very popular na yung HPLC, makikita nyo ka rin ngayon, marami pa rin gumagamit ng HPLC na longer yung column. Because the longer column, mas may capability siya to accept a complex sample. Not because, ang tawag dito, not because of the column capability, but because longer column, bigger particle size, mas nagtotolerate siya ng mga particulates na pwedeng pumasok sa column. Now, meron ba tayong solusyon dyan? Meron. Isa na to sa mga kailangan kong i-emphasize, yung tamang paggamit ng mga filters at saka membrane filters. Okay? Dito kung makikita daw ninyo, yung path ng 3 micron particle size, this particular path, if you would look at it, yan daw is mga 1.5 micron ang size. But the recent study shows na yung 3 mm, 3 micron, ang talagang effective size is 0.375. Ano ibig sabihin? Pag gumamit ka ng 3 micron particle size na column, pero ang ginamit mong pang filter mo sa HPLC mo is 0.45, umasa ka na magka-clog. Pag sinabi kong 0.45 micron, sa solvent at saka sample pareho, umasa kang magka-clog. Kaya definitely, pag yung mga sample, is yung tinatawag dito, yung less than 3 micron, please use 0.2 micron filter. Now, I know na kahit sa akin na nag-UHPLC, sana merong 0.1 micron filter. I think there is already coming some 0.1 micron filter. Hopefully, dumating siya. But it is quite expensive, pero mas maganda siya. May iwasan mo. Now, having said that, na-filter mo nga yung sample, pero hindi mo naman pinilter yung solvent mo, wala din. Lalo na ang solvent. Solvent should be also filtered through 0.2 micron filter. Okay? So, kailangan ma-filter mo din dito at 0.2. So, dapat pareho sila. Okay? Starting kapag gumamit ka ng less than 3 micron, lalo ngayon sa UHPLC, normally use 1.7, gumagamit ka ng sub 2 micron filter. Now, suggestion lang, lahat ng container na ginagamit nyo for solvents, yung ginagamit ninyo sa even the vials, please paki-wash ng solvent nyo na na-filter nyo under 0.2 micron filter. Bakit? Pag hindi nyo winash yan, kinuha nyo lang siya, dilagyan ninyo, ano ang implikasyon? May mga dust na naandyan. And this particular dust definitely will affect your UHPLC column at the same time, even your UHPLC. Okay? And then, prepare and dissolve sample as per SOP. And I hope yung pag-regular na pagwawash ng mga glassware, nung ginamit yung filter na 0.2, na filter nyo under 0.2, ilalagay nyo sa SOP. One of the recommendation as well na sinasabi ko dyan is hanggat bago nyo i-filter, under 0.2 micron filter, kung pwedeng i-centrifuge. Bakit? Kasi just in case na merong mga lumulutang-lutang na dust, ma-filter nyo sa centrifuge bago nyo i-filter. Now, there are some filters now available. Pagka sa maliliit, I know, sasabihin ng iba, ako mag-centrifuge kasi maliit lang naman yung aking sample. Pag sinentrifuge ko, wala na lalo. May mga tinatawag na filter vial. Pwede mong ilagay na dito yung sample mo, and then sa loob, and then you just have to press it down, mapipilter na yan. So ito, pwede mo na itong i-inject. These are filter vial for very, very small sample. Saan ito pwedeng makuha? Saan ito pwedeng mag-gets ninyo doon sa mga if you're using a UHPLC analysis, pagdating doon sa mga food safety analysis kung saan you have to go through sample preparation, after sample preparation, counting-counting na lang. Ano pa? Pagka sa peptides, sa plasma analysis, na counting-counting lang yung nakukuha ninyo. Also, ito pinagwawalang bahala ko. Pag sa UHPLC, please wag. Yung tinatawag natin ng mga safety caps. Ano ba yung piniprevent ng safety caps? Dalawa. Yung yung pagpasok ng kung anumang mga particulates kapag ka hindi nyo tinatakpan na mabuti, lagi siyang naandyan. Lalo na itong mga nakabukas na to. Yung tinatawag natin na dust. Be always mindful of this. At ito may iwasan pag meron kang safety cups. Ano pang kailangan i-mindful mo dito? Yung microbial build-up in HPLC buffer. Remember, if you're using phosphate buffer, it is very prone to build up ng mikrobyo. Kaya hanggat maaari, pagkatapos mong gamitin, gagawa ka lang ng sufficient enough, galing sa refrigerator, ilalabas mo, ipipilter mo, tsaka mo iraran for the day. Kapag ka naubos na, huwag mo siyang ibabalik sa refrigerator, kuha ka na lang ng panibago. And most of all, especially for UHPLC, be mindful of solvent evaporation. Okay, alam natin sa UHPLC, low dwell volume, low dispersion. So low dwell volume, low dispersion, very low changes in the organic solvent will affect your analysis time and will affect the selectivity of your peaks. So be always mindful of solvent evaporation. And solvent evaporation takes place kapag ganito ang mga takip mo or even ganito na may mga butas. So make sure to look at your solvent na meron siya mga safety na ganito. Yung tinatawag natin na safety seal. I'm not sure if the safety seal. Okay? And also, please do not ignore the small things. Ano ba yung mga small things na yan? Nabanggit ko na, always flush the containers, reagent bottles, solvent bottles, and with freshly filtered HPLC solvent. I would like to emphasize sa UHPLC, I have to overemphasize yung salitang freshly. Okay? Freshly. Pagka yan, halimbawa, iniwanan mo dyan, kailangan ko bang i-filter kinamagahan? I would suggest you do. Kasi baka nagkaroon na ng build-up ng mikrobyo at the same time, baka nagkaroon ka na ng mga dust build-up. Okay? And then, ito rin, please do not top up HPLC solvent. Always use a fresh solvent bottle. Kuha ng botelya, hugasan muna na na-filter under 0.2 micron. Now, nilagay ko lang dito if you would see yung mga type 1 na mga yung mga type 1 na mga HPLC, type 1 water, yung kanilang mga online solvent filtration, not online, yung kanilang mga water purification system, makikita nyo to lagi sa dulo, para bago mo i-collect, meron siyang filter na 0.22 filter, which is very good. So hanggat maaari, type 1 ang gamitin nyo sa paghuhugas ng lahat ng ginagamit sa UHPLC. And I would like to make mention, including the vials. Okay? Kasi yung vials sa kinuha nyo, binili nyo kabago-bago, nag-filter kayo, paka-filter, huwag nyo i-directa doon sa vial. Paki-wash them, paki-wash. Okay? Para lang maiwasan yung mga dust. And then, of course, para doon sa mga sample that goes through the sample preparation, please do not ignore sample preparation. Although sa pharmaceutical, ito lang naman yung ginagawa karamihan, hanggang dito lang ata, weighing, homogenization and dilution, that's very good. After you do this, pwede mo na siyang i-filter sa 0.45 micron filter or whatever. Pero doon sa gumagawa ng mga, sa plasma, yung gumagawa sa food safety, please be mindful of a sample preparation technique. May mga available na tools, itong tinatawag na SLE. Ito yung tinatawag na solid liquid extraction, solid supported liquid extraction. Please, tawag dito, baka pwede nyo gamitin itong mga to, imbis na magli-liquid extraction kayo, it probably cost a little bit of money, pero the good thing about this, reproducible ang extraction. If you're dealing with peptides, may tinatawag tayo na elimination ng phospholipids using a product called PRE. Okay? And then yung mga gumagamit ng catchers, now gusto ko rin i-emphasize, ang catchers ay hindi siya ganun kalinis. So catchers ang gagamitin nyo, be mindful to filter them at 0.1 kung merong 0.1 na filter available. And then the normal SPE, yan yung pinakamaayos na cleanup available in the market. Okay? Now, looking at the issues and challenges in the UHPLC, nasabi ko na yung mga safety issues, yung mga operating nuisances, pagdating sa mga instrument, ganun din. I also, hindi ko nabanggit yung injection precision, but because remember, karamihan naman ngayon na ginagamit ng mga UHPLC pagdating sa UHPLC system, UHPLC autosampler na rin ginagamit because the UHPLC autosampler should be able to handle also the higher back pressure, at the same time its capability to inject reproducibly smaller volume rather. Okay? And then yung paggamit ng UV beast detection. We also mention yung paggamit ng maliliit na flow cell. Okay? And then method translation, this is another, I would not have to discuss most of because ito kailangan ng mas mahaba-habang discussion. How does method translation convert? And then ang pinaka number one problem, I'm not sure if you heard about the so-called viscous heating. Well, by logic, because gumagamit ka ng mas maliit na particle size and gumagamit ka ng maliit na particle size sa column, so pag maliit ng particle size, meron kang flow, there is a resistance to flow. Pagka nag-build up ng back pressure, ang kasunod na build up yan is heat. Okay? So yung tinatawag na viscous heating sa UHPLC. Ito, walang viscous heating. So pagka nagpasok ka na 30 degrees, ang paglabas mo 30 degrees din. Pero yung mga viscous heating, pagka pumasok ka ng 30 degrees, nagbi-build up siya ng almost 10 degrees centigrade sa loob ng column. At yung build up ng temperature sa column mo might result in irreproducibility of results. Kasi nga, nakaprogram ako ng 30 pero ang lumalabas ng 45 degrees centigrade. Okay? Dalawang klase yung tinatawag na radial at saka yung longitudinal thermal gradient. Yung habang tumatagal yung run mo nagbi-build up. Now, na-mention ko, or the other way around, yung radial, galing sa gitna, lumalabas yung heating. Na-mention ko na, mangyayari ito, particularly maliliit na particle size ang ginagawa niyo. And the only way na mape-prevent ito is kapag gumamit ka ng mga, I'm sure, di-discuss ko later yung mga iba't ibang columns na pwede nyo gamitin to remedy this. Saan mo ito ma-observe na nagkakaroon ka ng viscous heating? Pagka napapansin mo minsan na nag-iiba yung retention time, either bumibilis, tumatagal. Viscous heating probably is happening into your column. It's time for you to change some of the column. Now, I would like also to make mention sa consideration sa UHPLC column. Gusto ko lang din i-explain na hindi ibig sabihin, palitin mo ng palitin yung particle size, gaganda yung performance. Liitin ang particle size, you are increasing the theoretical plate, you are also increasing the viscous heating. Kaya kung makikita nyo rito, nasa gitna lang yung theoretical plate. Ang isa pa rin na pinakamaayos is if you optimize the selectivity. The only problem with increasing the selectivity is kailangan mo pumili ng maayos na column. Okay? Pag sabihin ng maayos na column, you might want to select column other than C18. Okay, now, let me proceed with this one. Duplication lang naman yun. Okay? So, sa C18 kasi, if you're using USP, sa C18, L1 lang yung tinatawag na classification, kaya napakahaba ng selection. Pero sa European Pharmacopoeia, pag sinabing C18, meron kang tatlong klase. Yung isa, the normal silica-based na C18. Meron din yung R1. Itong R1 na octadecalcyl na C18, ito yung pure silica. Ito yung traditional na silica. Tapos itong base deactivated na silica, probably ito yung may additional deactivation na ginawa at yung isa yung NCAP. So na ibig ko sabihin, sa EP at least, may mga iba't ibang classification na pwede kang gamitin na column for C18 purposes. Okay? Pero at the same time, dito, hindi pa rin nasusolve yung tinatawag natin na viscous heating. Now, counting morphology lang ito sa column, no? Yung tinatawag na totally porous, ito karamihan ng column na ginagamit ngayon. Kung gumagamit ka ng Luna, gumagamit ka ng Zorbax, or gumagamit ka ng whatever available there is, karamihan yan, polyporous na. Ibig sabihin, totally porous yung mga column, ultra high purity. Mataas na purity. Pag mataas ang purity, naiiwasan yung tinatawag natin na extra broadening ng peaks due to H-bonding kasi nga ultra pure na siya. But again, ang problema dito, it's still prone to viscous heating. Kung meron ka pang mga ginagamit na microbonda pack, yung mga microbonda pack, yan yung traditional na ang ginagamit, yung isa, itong silica gel lang na hindi pure. Yan yung tinatawag natin na pinakaunang silica, hindi siya pure, that's very prone to broadening. Okay? Now, I'm not sure if you heard this, but I know probably you heard, hindi lang siguro na-explain mabuti. May tinatawag na mga core shell. Okay? Ito mga core shell na to, yung loob, yung pinakagitna ng column are actually solid. So kung solid yung pinakagitna ng column at hindi siya totally porous, nababawasan yung tinatawag na viscosity. So kung nababawasan yung viscous heating, ang penetration ng solvent mo at ang penetration ng back pressure mo papunta sa particle size, bawas. So kung bawas siya ngayon, viscous heating is less. Okay? So Again, ito pwede nyo i-consider. This is the same C18, pero pwede nyo i-consider kapag ka nakaka-experience kayo ng mga viscous heating, yung tinatawag na core shell. Sa phenomenics, ang tawag dito ay kinetics na column. Teka, ba't hindi ako? Wait lang. Next. Okay? So kung makikita niyo yung differences, the polypores are bigger as compared to dito na medyo mas maliit at medyo packed. And if you look at this, if you compare the efficiency, mas mataas yung efficiency na kukuha niyo sa core shell as compared to the polyporous. But again, ayaw kong tanggalin sa inyo yung pagdududa ng nakita nyo dito. Kung nakita niyo na itong part na to ay solid, which means wala nangyayaring separation dito. Okay? At alam naman natin, di ba, if you are familiar with HPLC chemistry, lahat ng separation nangyayari sa mga butas ng column. So kung ang butas ng column dito nangyayari, ang efficiency niya bawas dito kasi nga solid yung nasa gitna. So the efficiency only happen on the outside. Okay? So gusto ko lang ilagay, you just bear it in mind. Parang sinasabi ko lang na hindi totally porous ay masama kasi meron din siyang application. Now, sinasabi ko lang the problem has something to do with viscous heating. You have another way of solving them by having a core shell media para mas sharper probably yung peaks. Okay? And yung core shell media, because nakakagamit ka ng mas maliit, you can go up to small as 1.3 micron particle size. And some of the advantage of you would see here, dahil nga, remember yung core shell mo, mas maliliit siya, nakaka-reduce ka ng analysis time by almost 12% and resolution by 80, and you have increased peak height. Bakit na-increase ang peak height? Remember, mas maliit na particle size, mas mataas ang peak height, mas mababa pa rin ang back pressure niya. Okay, so this is one of the, ito ko nakikita nyo, there is a 36% decrease in runtime. There is here is also a, mamadali na ako, malapit na, and an efficiency of 78 increase in efficiency, and at the same time, kung makikita nyo rito, the core shell column, pwede nyo gamitin both for HPLC at saka UHPLC. Pipili lang kayo ng mga nasa 2.6, okay, particle size. Pag meron kang normal HPLC, pwede ka nang gumamit ng core shell. You could use kasi mas mababa ang flow, particle back pressure na ginagamit dito. As again, there are different particle size. You can start with 1.3, 1.7, up to 5 micron. Okay? Now, if I'm not sure if you heard the term called Luna Omega. Itong Luna Omega na to, ito yung normal na polyporous column na pwede mong gamitin kapag ka ayaw mong gumamit ng core shell kahit na meron kang tinatawag na viscous heating. Ano ang ginawa? Ang ginawa lang po ng Phenomenex dyan, yung mga cracks na to, yung mga microporous cracks na nag-help sa mag-build up ng heat ay sinara during I'm not so sure what is the process, pero sinara nila para hindi siya, totally porous pa rin siya, pero wala na mga microporous with reduce yung tinatawag na viscous heating. At kung makikita nyo, the efficiency now is almost the same. As I mentioned din kanina, there are times na yung Luna Omega, which is yung with micropores na bawas, mas maganda ang performance kaysa sa polyporous. I already explained doon sa unang presentation na ginawa ko. Okay? Even the traditional 1.7 micron at saka 1.6, mas nagkakaroon ka ng mas magandang peak separation. Okay? So, polyporous versus core shell, although ito again, ito nagkakaroon ka ng bawas sa separation dito, pero dito you can utilize the whole separation, but the viscous heating is reduced with Luna Omega system. Okay? And then, I'll just give you a copy of this for general purpose work because I am overtiming again. Now, nabanggit ko kanina, baka pwede kayo mag-select. Remember, sinabi ko, selectivity is still key. Pagdating sa paggagawa, kung kayo naman is nasa method development stage pa lang, please don't limit yourself with the C18. Baka naman pwede kayong gumamit ng mga hexyl phenyl type. Lalo na, remember, if we have more time with the additional method development, I'll explain to you yung tinatawag na principles life, dissolved life. Pag alam niyo yung analyte na ina-analyze nyo, ipareho lang niyo yung column, mas maganda ang separation niya na makukuha. Okay? And also, I would like to make mention, especially now, I'm sure, now ang nakikita ko, ang direction ngayon ng mga HPLC method is from normal UVBs, papunta na siya sa mga MS. At pagpapunta sa MS, ang karamihan na ginagamit dyan na solvent are highly volatile solvents. And normally those highly volatile solvents, gumagamit siya ng mga ammonia, whatever, na ang pH is mabababa. So you can probably make use of a high pH mobile phase. Kaya lang, remember, alam naman natin na ang mga traditional column, even the polyporous at saka yung tinatawag na core shell, may limitation siya sa pH. Hindi niya kaya yung mga pH 9 or 10 pataas kasi nagkakaroon ng dissolution ng silica. Itong tinatawag na organo-silica hybrid, this is with Kinetics Evo, I think, hindi siya lang tunay na silica na may bridge, ginawa niyang ganito ang silica niya para suitable siya up to pH 12. We know na meron to, yung this is part of the Kinetics Evo C18. Okay? Yan yung pwedeng gumamit ka ng kahit formic acid, ammonium acetate, or even ammonium bicarbonate, which is at pH 10. Nakakayanin niya pa rin kahit na nicotine analysis siya, but a high pH, magagamit niyo pa rin yung column ninyo. Okay, in summary, these are just, I don't have to go into this particular summary. I'll just give you a copy of this kasi I know I'm nag-overtime na naman ako. But anyways, please protect your HPLC column. I know this is an additional cost, pero sa akin, mas mabuti na ang pinapalitan ko ay guard column, hindi yung aking mahal na column, kasi kapag nagpalit ako ng column, the same thing would happen. Kapag kaiba yung lot number, baka magkaroon ng differences in selectivity. And as a summary, nang nabanggit ko again, solvent and sample preparation is key in your HPLC analysis. Make sure there is an optimized tubing, and please understand selectivity pagdating sa mga column selection. Okay, back to you, Mark. Stop my share. If you have some question, please. Merong question, Mark? Naka-mute ka, Mark.
Thank you, sir. Sorry. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Sir Lem, for the presentation. So we have some questions sa iyo, sir.
Okay.
Ask lang natin.
Kasi unahin mo yun, kasi di ba, bibigyan mo unahin mo yung pinakaunang nagbibigay
sa si Jubil ang pinakauna, si Jubil. Ang tanong po niya, saan ba si Jubil?
Okay. Hindi ba ito yung may SPE? Hindi ba ito?
Si Jubil po ay dati kong customer sa YSS and nasa, Philipida. So, ang sabi po nung iba, ang question po niya is, may mga application daw po na nagsasabi na no need to filter HPLC grade solvents. Is this applicable po sa lahat? Like water, methanol, etc. Okay,
i-explain ko ha. I-explain ko yan. Kasi ganyan din ang nare-receive ko ng mga katanungan. Okay? It's true. Kasi, bakit siya true? Kung ako yung nagbukas ng HPLC solvent, naglagay ako doon, naggamit, at ako yung gumagamit ng HPLC grade solvent, pag sinara ko siya, totally, talagang filter siya, probably under 0.2 or 0.1 micron filter. Yes, tama. Pero as a practice, remember, nakita niyo yung flow ng aking discussion, ang iniiwasan natin dito, as an analytical chemist, dapat meron kang tinatawag na sarili mong quality control in yourself. Okay? Yung quality control na ginawa ng JT Baker, Merck, Mallinckrodt, kung sino man yung manufacturer, do you think pwede mo siyang pagkatiwalaan? Pagka hindi mo siya pwedeng pagkatiwala, which is ganyan ang attitude ko, kahit pa sinabi hindi ko na ipipilter ko pa uli para lang makasiguro ako. Correct? Kasi kinakailangan, as analytical chemist, meron kang total control of your analytical criterion. Hindi mo kasi hawak yun eh. Paano kung hindi naman pala siya na-filter, disira yung yung HPLC column mo. Another thing is, remember, nabanggit ko alam niyo naman siguro kung bakit ko pinawawash yung mga HPLC or any container for that matter. Kasi yung kumapit doon, now, if you're talking about HPLC, pwede nyo i-omit. Pero if you're talking about yung HPLC, yung mga dust na nasa loob nung HPLC bottles, maaaring may dust, kaya kailangan i-wash. Now, pwede nyo sigurong i-omit, huwag nyo i-wash, kapag yung inyong HPLC nakalagay sa class 10, class 10 o class 100 na clean room. Pero kung hindi man, it's better to please, sa aking suggestion lang, take hold and take control of your analytical system. Okay?
Okay. Question number 2 po from Dr. Carmen Tan of LaSalle. Her question is, which SPE or SLE would you use for testing polyphenolics in plant material? What
Okay.
type of column would you use?
Column ba o yung SPE, please? Column or what?
SPE or SLE is
SPE.
better for
Okay.
testing
So,
polyphenolics in plant, and what column po?
okay. So, explain ko lang ha. May dalawang klaseng SLE. yung para lang maintindihan, yung process ng SLE, gumagamit siya ng very minimum procedure. Yung SLE, meron kang sample, ilalagay mo sa SLE, pa-absorb mo yung hindi mo gusto, tsaka mo siya i-clean up. Now, yung SLE, they are normally used kapag yung objective na gusto mong i-analyze are organic, highly soluble sa organic. Kasi ang tinatanggal ng SLE, yung masyadong mga polar na compounds. Siya ang dumidikit doon sa diatomaceous earth. So kapag pina-absorb mo, remember, even sa liquid-liquid extraction, di ba? Meron kang dalawang layer, yung fat layer at saka yung water layer. So ang gusto mong tanggalin is yung water layer. Para pag winas mo siya ngayon, makukuha mo yung mga, probably these are the long chain hydrocarbons or whatever, that is SLE. Pero kapag ang objective mo ay matanggal yung mga extra protein, yun yung tinatawag na pre, that is available sa, how do you call that? Available siya sa Phenomenex. Pag ang gusto mo lang tanggalin yung mga phospholipid. Okay, now, pagdating naman doon sa SPE, yung SPE, medyo may kaunti ng not complication, medyo maraming steps na siya kasi ito na talaga yung pinaka-clean up. Now, kung ang gusto niyo ma'am ay ma-separate yung mga groups, kasi normally sa mga plant extract analysis, especially for, how do you call that, para sa mga traditional medicine, yung mga plant material, yung mga target naman natin, minsan hindi natin alam from the very beginning. So mas maganda, nasa-separate natin siya into group. Pwede highly polar, moderately polar, at saka non-polar. In these particular things, pwede natin siyang i-run through a system called flash chrome. May mga flash column po na ginagamit to separate them. Okay? So, Mark, kung gusto ni ma'am ng mag-ano ka na lang kay ma'am ng separate na Zoom, whatever meeting that we could discuss some of these technologies. Okay?
Okay, sir. With that addition, i-add ko lang doon kay sir, if your company requires siguro HPLC training, method development, we also perform it. So just inform us. So para ma-schedule namin. It will require a minimal cost, but we will be happy to help you with your to solve some of your needed solutions. Third question. It's from Ms. Mavis Fabian ng UP Institute of Chem. Sir, are there any detergents or solutions that are safe to use for cleaning media bottles for HPLC and UHPLC use that won't affect runs that has MS detector?
Okay, so ganito ha. Normally, yung sa paglilinis ng mga botelya, may mga nabibiling detergent, pero itong mga detergent na to, ito lang yung ginagamit sa glasswares kasi ang ina-avoid natin, remember, pag may mga detergent na mataas yung pH, kinakaskas yung bote, kaya nakikita niyo yung mga solvent, yung mga bote yung minsan mapuputi. So pag kinakaskas ang bote niyan, ibig sabihin niya, nadidissolve yung silica ng inyong botelya. So ang nangyayari niyan, malinis siya, pero nakakaskas. So baka everyday kailangan niyo siyang ipa-recalibrate every year. Pero ang pinaka-question dito is, yung hindi makaka-affect sa runtime. Ito ngayon binabanggit ko, para hindi siya maka-affect sa runtime nyo ng MS, pagkatapos yung hugasan ng detergent, nahugasan nyo na ng tubig na maayos, sigurado namang malinis na siya. Bago nyo gamitin, please wash them with your mobile paste, yung ginagamit mong mobile paste. So kung ginagamit mong mobile paste, merong tinatawag na ammonium phosphate or tinatawag na vapor na ginagamit mo sa UHPLC or sa LCMS, yun ang gamitin mong pang-wash. Okay?
Okay.
Yes, Mark.
Okay. Last two questions. From Andrea Ayala of Aqualab, Quezon City. Question po, pag nag-max po ba ang back pressure kahit nag-rinse ng column, okay lang po ba nababaan ang flow rate?
Actually, ganito ha. So, I'm not sure kapag ganito yung kailangan nyo ring tingnan na pagka nag-max bigla ang back pressure ng column. Biglang tumaas. Ang ibig sabihin niyan talaga, meron kayong naipasok dyan. Maaaring sa sample at or kaya maaaring sa solvent. Okay? So pag bigla siyang tumaas, ganito ang gusto kong gagawin nyo. Tanggalin nyo yung column at ibaliktarin nyo. Pakabaliktarin nyo at saka mo i-wash. Kasi pag binabaan mo yung flow rate, tama, ma-achieve mo yung back pressure. Kaya lang, palabasin mo ba siya hanggang malumabas mo sa kabila ng mababang back ng flow rate? Nakukuha niyo ibig mo sabihin? Baliktarin nyo na lang kasi pag binalikta, ito yung flow, tumaas bigla, baliktarin mo kasi yung dumi niya naandito na. Kung naandito na yung dumi, pagka nag-flow ka, lalabas agad siya, tsaka mo ayusin uli. Kesa yung andito, tumaas agad yung back pressure, binabaan mo yung flow, tama. Pag binabaan mo yung flow, dahan-dahan bago siya lumabas, kakain siya ng oras. Okay? At also at the same time, pag binabaan mo yung flow rate, ibig sabihin ba siya, pasok ba siya dun sa method mo? Yung sa tinatawag tolerances ng method mo, kung gagamitin mo siya for run. Kasi pag binabaan mo ang flow rate mo dyan, remember, your fix also, yung peak of interest mo rin, tatagal ang runtime. At pag tumagal ang runtime, nabanggit ko sa presentation, di ba, mas matagal ang runtime, the peaks are sharp. Okay, so please understand, bakit biglang nag-max ang back pressure mo? Normally, hindi siya dapat nagma-max ng biglaan. Dapat, makikita mo, kaunting-kaunti lang yung observation at ito, yung, I'm sure, nag-attend kayo last time, yung tinatawag ni Ryan na, although sa GC siya, yung proactive troubleshooting, dapat naintindihan natin yung back pressure, kaya nga naglalagay tayo ng max or minimum. Pag tumaas ang back pressure higher than 10 to 20% of our usual analysis time, something bad had happened. At huwag natin hihintayin yung ganun. Dapat nag-set tayo ng time kung kailan natin lilinisan at iba-backflash yung mga column. Okay? I hope it helps. Yes, Mark?
Thank you, sir. Final question because it's already 11 a.m. So to those who ask the questions, for attendees, please chat your details po. Cellphone number na lang para mabilis tayo, para lang makakuha namin yung details nyo para pagsasend ng token. Last question is from, again, kay Ma'am Fabis. For sample clean up via SPE, if complex samples po for not na unknown po yung sample, so medyo all po yung need na sample, is there a proper method of applying SPE? Kasi the method is like washing, loading, etc.
Ang tawag dito, as I've mentioned kanina, for natural products, tulad ng sinabi ninyo, kailangan nyo lahat. So kung kailangan nyo lahat, kasi hindi nyo pa na-identify yung pinaka-active, so initially kailangan nyo lahat. So ang tamang technique talaga dito is flash chrome. Yung gumagamit ka ng mas mahabang column because per flash chrome, if you use a flash chrome, pwede nyo ngayong i-separate yung mga peaks mo by group. So pagka na-separate mo na siya ngayon by group, tsaka mo siya ngayon i-run sa HPLC for some proper identification if you would like to identify. I don't think SPE could help in the washing, except, remember, ang SPE may silica, may C18. So by theory, kapag ka nag-run ka sa silica, by principle of likes dissolves like, ang aakapin ng silica are polar. So makukuha mo non-polar. Okay? The other way around, yung C18 naman are non-polar. Pagka nag-run ka ng sample, aakapin niya lahat ng mga non-polar component mo, ang makikita mo polar. So kung gusto mong gamitin yung SPE by that way, that could be done. Okay? But again, as I mentioned, yung maaari yung sagot ko is county at half-hearted, whatever, that it's better if we could have a more detailed discussion about this. Pwede naman kami mag-discuss sa inyo. Total, pandemya naman ngayon, marami akong oras. So, let's schedule. Okay?
Let's schedule it na lang po. So, there are no more questions. Sir Lem, last question. Last na. Humabol po si Ma'am Nicole dahil meron pa tayong pamigay. Kukunin ko Alfanta. Question, what is your suggested washing procedures if your samples are matrix plasma?
Unang-una, ang tawag dito, I would suggest yung Mark, bigyan mo to si Ma'am nung yung pre na pang-wash para yung phospholipid hindi natatanggal, hindi siya dumidikit. Okay? Pagka meron kang matrix na plasma, pagka nag-backflash ka dyan, I would suggest, although di ba meron kayong pagka nagba-backflash, meron kayong recipe na organic methanol, water muna, pagkatapos 50 ppm methanol, tapos methanol, acetonitrate. Doon sa how do you call that? Doon sa recipe na yun, dadagdagan natin ng isopropyl alcohol. Yun lang yun. Okay, but I'll give you a suggested washing procedure. I will ask Mark to do it.
Okay.
Ano ba ito? Meron pang isa ito. Itong from FNRI. Basahin mo nga, Mark. Sagutin na rin natin.
Gusto ko nakita yun. Nasaan sir?
Ito. For backflashing ng column, is it true of all types of column na pag binaliktad, ano ito?
Ayun pa pala kay ma'am, sorry. Ay ma'am Faith.
Oo.
Okay.
Pag binaliktad, parang iwas.
Faith Isla. Regarding column backflashing ng column, as you mentioned, is it true to all type of column na pag binaligtad po para i-wash, pwede po ba siyang ibalik sa tamang flow? Ang
Yes.
practice po kasi is once na backflash siya, yun na po ang way niya at di na po ibabalik sa original. Thank you po.
Okay. Actually, the proper way is actually, yung pagkatapos mo siyang i-backflash, ibabalik mo siya doon sa tamang flow para lang, remember, kapag ang purpose ng pagbabackflash mo is kung nandito yung dumi, lalabas siya rito. Okay? Now, kung ang naging practice mo, ulitin ko, dito yung dumi, binackflash mo, lalabas yung dumi. Okay? But, hindi lahat ng dumi pwedeng lumabas. Kaya ang suggestion noon, ibabalik mo siya sa tamang flow and then run it again. That's the proper way. But, hindi ko sinasabi na mali yung ginagawa nyo kasi it also makes sense. Ang gusto ko lang, kasi pagka binaliktad mo siya, binaliktad mo na rin yung selectivity. And I know baka magkaroon ka ng a little bit problem pero ma-adjust mo naman yung mga flow rate. Kaya lang ang problema, pag tinuli mo na ng ganito, kung hindi kompleto yung backflash mo, unti-unting lalabas yung mga dumi mo, particularly yung dumi doon sa frit ng column, na baka magkaroon ng problema doon sa yung flow cell in the future. Okay? But anyway, kahit hindi mo siya balik-balik, it's okay if that is your practice. Remember, pagdating sa mga laboratory, meron tayong tinatawag na quality system. At kapag ka nagkakaroon ng mga ISO audit, basta nakalagay sa SOP niya na ganyan, it's no problem at all. Walang problema siya. Pero para sa akin, binabalik ko siya sa dati para lang maiwasan ko yung unexpected problem na pwede mangyari in the future. Okay?
Okay? Sorry, yung mga wala naman na tayong questions. So thank you very much for the question. My question po, nag-a-accept po ba kayo ng OJT training?
Pero you have to, yung OJT training, you have to go through the, the process.
Actually,
May training kami.
We have an OJT in our company. So if you are, if you have someone that are interested, maybe we can check po, just send us the resume para po ma-check namin if we can still squeeze him in sa grupo namin. So with that po, thank you very much Sir Lem for the very informative presentation. We would like to remind you na meron pa po tayong ang tawag doon, webinar on
Next week.
Next week?
Ito naman po, next week. Ito naman may kinalaman sa Flash Chrome. Yung po nagtatanong ng mga natural products para po siya sa next week. I will discuss a little bit of Flash Chrome para lang maintindihan po natin. Okay?
So yun po, with that po, thank you so much. We would like to see you again in the next webinar. Thank you. Have a good morning.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Keep safe, everyone.
Hindi, yung may mga questions lang ang ngayon.